Hollywood once placed Teyana Taylor on a pedestal, presenting her as one of its most promising and versatile talents. The industry embraced her fully, praising her ability to move seamlessly between music, acting, choreography, and creative direction. She earned major recognition along the way, including a Golden Globe nomination, secured acting roles that generated real awards attention, and became involved in high-profile projects connected to influential figures like Ryan Murphy. For a time, it genuinely seemed as though she had been welcomed into Hollywood's inner circle, a space reserved for those considered elite. Yet, behind all the praise, success, and opportunity, something essential remained missing. Despite the deals, recognition, and visibility, there was one thing she never fully secured: complete control over her own creative work. And according to comedian Katt Williams, that missing piece may explain why her relationship with the entertainment industry has always appeared more complicated than it seems on the surface. From Katt Williams' perspective, the moment Teyana stepped into a position where she could shape her own vision and make independent creative decisions, she stopped being just another artist working within the system. Instead, she became something far more disruptive. In his view, she transitioned from being an asset to becoming a potential problem, not because of anything she publicly said or did, but because of what she had seen behind the scenes and what she might choose to reveal in the future. In several interviews, as well as in his Netflix stand-up appearances, Katt Williams has suggested that Hollywood is not always intimidated by outspoken personalities. Rather, he believes the real concern lies with individuals who deeply understand how the system operates from within. According to him, the most unsettling figures are those who have spent years navigating that environment, people who understand its structures, its unwritten rules, and its power dynamics at every level. In his view, Teyana Taylor fits that description perfectly. To understand why this idea resonates with so many fans online, it is important to look closely at how different her career path has been. Hollywood traditionally prefers to place talent into clearly defined categories. Artists are typically expected to remain within a single lane, whether that be music, acting, or directing. While crossover success does happen, the system is largely designed to keep individuals focused on one area. This structure ensures that artists remain dependent on record labels, studios, and executives for opportunities. When someone stays in one lane, they are easier to manage, easier to market, and ultimately easier to control. Teyana, however, never followed that blueprint. Her journey began in Harlem, where she was discovered as a teenager by Pharrell Williams at a time when most young artists were still finding their identity. Even then, she was already gaining experience behind the scenes in major creative spaces. Early in her career, she contributed to choreography for Beyoncé, working on performances that would eventually reach millions of viewers worldwide through major stages and televised events. From there, she entered one of the most influential creative circles in modern hip-hop by joining Kanye West's Good Music. This was not just about making songs. It was about stepping into a space where music, fashion, visual art, and business intersected in ways few labels had ever managed before. For many artists, being in that environment would simply mean focusing on their own projects and advancing their careers. But Teyana approached it differently. She paid attention. She observed everything happening around her: how decisions were made, how deals were structured, and how influence moved behind closed doors. She sat in important rooms, listened to critical conversations, and gained exposure to aspects of the industry that most artists never get to see. She also witnessed how artists could be elevated to prominence and, at times, quietly sidelined when they were no longer seen as beneficial. While the public largely viewed her as a performer, those behind the scenes understood that she was absorbing knowledge at a much deeper level. That insight would later become a defining part of her story. Because long before the awards, acting roles, and directing opportunities came into play, there was a period when it seemed as though the industry was close to pushing her out entirely. In 2020, Teyana surprised fans by announcing that she was stepping away from music. At first, the situation appeared straightforward. Many outlets framed it as a case of creative exhaustion or burnout. However, when she later spoke about the experience, a more complex picture began to emerge. She revealed that she had repeatedly asked her label, Def Jam Recordings, to release her from her contract, reportedly making the request around 10 times. Yet she was consistently denied. That detail alone raised serious questions about how much control artists truly have even when they appear successful on the surface. On paper, a record deal is supposed to function as a partnership, with both sides working toward shared success. In reality, however, it can become highly restrictive. What begins as an opportunity can gradually start to feel like confinement. Katt Williams has pointed to Teyana Taylor's experience as an example of how the entertainment industry often prioritizes its own interests above those of the artist. In his view, her decision to step away was not purely personal. It reflected a situation in which her options were being quietly limited, leaving her with very little room to maneuver. Eventually, Def Jam agreed to release her from the contract. But by that point, the delay had already taken a significant toll. In an industry where timing is everything, losing momentum can have lasting consequences. Even the most talented and driven artists can struggle when their creative output and public visibility are disrupted for extended periods. Time in this industry is one of the few resources that cannot be recovered. Every year spent waiting is a year someone else is using to grow, release new work, and strengthen their connection with audiences. Careers can shift rapidly, and even the most promising trajectories can lose momentum if that time is lost. Yet instead of fading into the background, Teyana made a strategic and unexpected move. She adapted. Redirecting her focus toward film, she stepped into directing, a decision that fundamentally changed the trajectory of her career. It shifted her position from someone the system could easily manage to someone it now had to engage with differently. By taking control behind the camera, she moved into a role that offered far greater creative authority. By 2024, conversations about influence and control within Hollywood had started to grow louder. Katt Williams became increasingly vocal about what he described as hidden systems, structures operating behind the scenes that shape careers without public awareness. His comments sparked widespread discussion online about who truly holds power in the entertainment industry and who benefits from maintaining certain narratives. During these discussions, Teyana Taylor's name began appearing more frequently, not because she was making bold accusations, but because observers started connecting the dots. She had spent years in the very circles being discussed. She had seen contracts up close, watched negotiations unfold, and gained first-hand knowledge of how power operates behind the scenes. Now she was stepping into a position that gave her an entirely new kind of control. There is a significant difference between being in front of the camera and working behind it. Performers are often carefully managed. Their schedules, interviews, public appearances, and even their online presence typically pass through multiple layers of oversight from managers, publicists, and advisors. Directors, on the other hand, occupy a very different space. They shape the narrative itself. They decide what the audience sees, which moments are emphasized, and how the story unfolds. That level of authority is rare, and when someone in that role also possesses deep insider knowledge of the industry, it can make those in positions of power uneasy. Teyana Taylor's first major directing project, Get Light, quickly attracted attention. The film, associated with Paramount Pictures, draws heavily from the culture and experiences that shaped her upbringing. It aims to present perspectives that do not always receive strong backing from major studios. On the surface, it appeared to be a breakthrough moment, a new filmmaker collaborating with a major studio to bring a fresh voice into mainstream cinema. However, according to Katt Williams, situations like this can also generate subtle pressure behind the scenes. Historically, filmmakers have used their work as a medium to express ideas they may not openly state in public. Film is a powerful form of communication. Directors often incorporate symbolism, layered storytelling, and subtle references that audiences interpret over time. In Black cinema especially, this approach has long served as a way to challenge powerful systems without confronting them directly. The stories become coded. The visuals carry meaning beyond what is immediately visible, and those who understand the context can recognize what is truly being communicated. When a filmmaker with insider experience chooses to tell stories in this way, the impact can be both significant and unpredictable. According to Katt Williams, that unpredictability is precisely what can make certain figures within the industry uncomfortable. More recently, fans have begun noticing something unusual. The rollout for Get Light suddenly became quiet. Updates slowed, and the promotional momentum appeared to stall without a clear explanation. While delays are not uncommon in Hollywood, Films are often postponed due to scheduling conflicts, budget adjustments, reshoots, or shifting studio priorities. A project that once generated strong buzz going silent naturally invites speculation. Around the same time, news surfaced that Teyana Taylor and Iman Shumpert had quietly gone their separate ways. The breakup was publicly attributed to demanding schedules and career pressures, a familiar and convenient explanation. However, the timing did not go unnoticed. Online communities, already engaged in discussions sparked by Katt Williams' comments, began connecting these developments. With multiple events unfolding simultaneously, different narratives started to overlap. As often happens in the digital age, the internet began piecing everything together, forming its own interpretations of what might be happening behind the scenes. Whether those interpretations reflect reality or speculation is another question entirely. But what remains clear is that Teyana Taylor's journey is far from typical. It is a story shaped not just by talent and opportunity, but by awareness, timing, and the ongoing tension between creativity and control within one of the most powerful industries in the world.